This review is dedicated to the memory of John Lee Erwin, the voice of Prince Adam aka He-Man, alongside Beastman, and George DiCenzo, voice of Hordak and Bo. Well, it's been a long time since our last review, folks, but before we jump into our first review of 2025, I'd like to talk to you about the joy of animation. Animation, or cartoons like some people call it, have been around for more than a century. One of the earliest examples includes a French animation called Phantasmagorie. Ever since then, animation has slowly been making its strides throughout the next few decades, featuring the likes of Little Nemo, Gertie the Dinosaur, Mutt and Jeff, the live-action hybrid Alice and Julius, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and of course, Mickey Mouse and his girlfriend Minnie Mouse. But it was the 30s and the 40s that allowed animation to take off as an art form. Warner Brothers got its legs in the water with classics like Bosco the Talking Ink Kid, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, and Bugs Bunny, while Fleischer Studios had its own set of classics like Popeye the Sailor Man and sex appeal character Betty Boop, while also appealing to the more wholesome audience with Little Lulu and Little Audrey. Even Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer had their success with Tom and Jerry, Droopy, and many others. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, animation is not just popular here in the United States. Around the world, animation has become a universally accepted art form. Many pour their own skills, be it through characters, backgrounds, writing, voice acting, and music to name a few elements. Many include Franklin the Turtle from Canada, Miraculous Ladybug from France, Count Duckula from Britain, Bluey from Australia, Journey to the West, Legend of the Monkey King from China, New Pogodi from Russia, and Sailor Moon from Japan. That is the strength of animation, regardless where you live. But the thing is, animation is more than just a mere cartoon. It's an art form that people, be it adults or children, can connect with. They can make us laugh, they can make us cry, they can also be controversial with questionable content. But lately, they can also be very emotional and heartwarming, showcasing these characters in a brand new light. And sometimes, there are characters in animation that we can relate to, that hold us close in our hearts. Be it a purple alicorn, a young blue dog, 3 otters, or maybe a gigantic transformer from a distant planet. But I am also aware that there are animation that felt like they didn't get enough attention, regardless if it's in modern times or far in the past. Diamonds in the rough that we don't give enough attention to. Yes, we do look down at shows and movies that deserve to be criticized, and I'm not bringing up any examples. But at the same time, we don't give some of these lesser shows a bigger time to shine in the light. Even so, studios are canceling some of these beloved shows way too soon, leaving a void left where the show was supposed to conclude, and there's a lot to dig through. In this day and age, when it comes to animation, I'll be dedicating myself more to reviewing animated films, specials, or TV shows. Yes, I will continue to review live-action flicks like the first 6 Star Trek films, or Spider-Man No Way Home, but most of my review time will be towards animation, be it a classic you are familiar with, or a gem you may have forgotten. Just don't expect me to go after the worst of the worst in any shape or way. I may have a love for animation, but even I won't dare to touch anything that would make cringe look pleasant. We're at the crossroads with animation worldwide, and right now, we need to tell every studio that the medium in question needs more support than ever before, and not to skimp on quality, thank you very much. But as I always say in my Switch watches, only time will tell if we can all prevail with our love for the very medium itself. And that includes Mattel's Masters of the Universe franchise, which I'll cast my review on with this movie. Now before we move on, let's do a one-time twist on the author's note for He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword. Based on Mattel's Masters of the Universe by Roger Sweet and J. Michael Straczynski. Directed by Ed Freeman, Lou Kachivas, Marsh Lamore, Bill Reed, and Gwen Wetzler. Published by Filmation and Atlantic Releasing. Starring the voices of John Erwin, Melanie Britt, Lou Scheimer, Erica Scheimer, Linda Gary, Alan Oppenheimer, and introducing George DiCenzo as Hordak and Bo. Rated G. Anyway, enjoy the review of He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword.
It's not nice to call people names.
Who are you, woman?
The name's She-Ra.
In 1985, following the success of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Filmation and Mattel released a spin-off series focused on a female counterpart, the He-Man. While not as huge, She-Ra's legacy would be reborn many decades later in a far more popular animated series. Sorceress Tila Na sent Prince Adam to the land of Etheria to discover the owner of the Sword of Protection. Little does he know, the person he's looking for is a soldier of the evil Hordak and his missing twin sister.
Oh boy, fish! Thank you.
The environments of Etheria are just gorgeous. A lot of care was placed in designing the backgrounds for this movie, and it shows. Some areas, like the Whispering Woods, look like they came out of an enchanted fairy tale. Others, like the Fright Zone, are barren, forsaken lands that abandoned all hope. And while the movement of the characters were limited due to the early days of TV animation, it still had its charm that made it worth watching. Believe me, some of this stuff can be enjoyable.
You may have defeated us, but you'll never see this child again.
On the flip side, the whole theme of this movie was all about a rebellion against an evil overlord, similar to the iconic Star Wars franchise, where the rebellion led by Bo and Cowl mirrors the Rebel Alliance. Hordak and his minions were like the Empire. But the way the designs were done with Hordak's foot soldiers and the technological nightmare that is the Fright Zone, I'm beginning to think that this series was the inspiration for Sonic Sat AM in the 90s. Maybe I should review that in the future. What do you guys think?
By the power of Grayskull!
I always saw He-Man as the ideal superhero that kids look up to, just like Superman. Though unlike the Man of Steel, he takes on the form of Prince Adam when not relying on the Sword of Power. Sometimes he can be a bit one-dimensional when it comes to his emotions. But, and I'm using that word again, there's some charm to He-Man that makes him appeal a lot to my childhood. A hero who's willing to protect his friends against any foe, be it Skeletor or Hordak.
For the honor of Grayskull!
Which brings me to Adora. Back when I first started watching He-Man and She-Ra in the late 80s, I was surprised to see that He-Man's twin sister started as a member of the Horde, as Hordak's right-hand captain. But as the story went on, Adora embraced her own story arc that led to her becoming the Princess of Power, She-Ra, and her own dedication to lead the rebellion against her former master. It's funny, this was one of those series that placed a spark of feminism deep within my own soul because of Adora, because of She-Ra. Well, that and the original My Little Pony.
Razzle dazzle, doozle drear, horrid vines, disappear!
While they weren't as great as He-Man's secondary characters, the rebellion reminded me of the very same heroes of Eternia that fought Skeletor. Bo, being the lone male of the rebellion, takes the fight to the Horde with his companion Cowl by his side. Madame Raz is even sillier than Orko with her spells often miscasting. Princess Glimmer of Brightmoon is brave and powerful, but she can be naive at times and doesn't carry a lot of magic potential. Of course, her mother, Queen Angela, despite having a smaller screen time, showcased just how powerful her family line truly is. And she has wings to boot. She must be an alicorn in disguise, I swear of it.
It's not nice to cause trouble for the evil Horde.
And now we come to the Horde themselves, or rather, Hordak primarily. While we do have his minions like Mantenna, Catra, and the Siren of Dark Shadow Weaver, Hordak was a fun villain who treated Adora like his own daughter prior to her defection. He relied mostly on his tech to spread fear across Etheria, such as his arm cannon, though his rocket transformation leaves something to be desired. He's also clever and cunning, able to trap He-Man a couple of times and keep Adora under his control. For a new villain introduced in this movie, Hordak proves to be a worthy adversary to both He-Man and She-Ra.
Perhaps you're right. But Eternia is mine to conquer now.
Of course, we can't forget about old Skeletor. Yes, he's still a silly villain like in the prequel series, but he still carries the same characterization that made him enjoyable. Even though he made only a small appearance in this movie, he still managed to steal Hordak's main antagonist slot for a while, and even got the credit for successfully kidnapping Adora once again. And who can't forget the iconic voice work of the legendary Alan Oppenheimer for delivering on this iconic villain. I mean, sure, we have Mark Hamill and Ben Diskin, but Alan Oppenheimer still nails it as the voice of Skeletor.
A female He-Man. This is the worst day of my life.
For anyone who's new to the original Masters of the Universe series, I recommend checking out He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword. The characters are fun, the theme of the rebellion rides strong, and the bond of two siblings makes this a rather interesting story. And best of all, you can catch this movie entirely on YouTube, along with a number of episodes of He-Man and She-Ra.